Chapter 1. The Ugly World Around Us. Why used to be the most common word used by children. Because was the most common answer given by the adults that already knew. We do not use those words here anymore. We no longer think to ask why something is, and even if we did, the parents would not care enough to answer. But the truth was that they did not even know themselves. They did not want to know. It has been this way for a long time. We are taught that what we see is what there is to it, nothing more. There are no secrets, no magic, not anymore, because we do not deserve it. Our world is dying because we no longer care. We no longer see the magic in things. We no longer understand the meaning of life. We no longer wonder and think about why something is. We do not try to learn things anymore. We cannot write or read, but that is our choice. But then there are those few people that do try and do want to learn to read and to write, but we all know it is impossible for them to learn here, in a world like this. We live on the streets, or stay in the aged, falling down houses scattered across the land. We eat out of the garbage cans. We eat on the scraps of food left behind by the few people that have enough money to buy their own. And if we do not find what we are searching for, we wait until our life comes to an end, and hope that where we go after that will be a happier place. For us, it is a blessing to die. The people who think that we can make this world better and learn from our mistakes are stupid. I do not care about anything like that anymore. Why should any of us? I could feel the rotting wood floor beneath my firm leather boots. I stood leaning up against the coarse gray wall of the abandoned house. I gazed solemnly out of the broken window that lay before me. The thick and sickly-smelling air washed around me and swallowed my body into a speechless and motionless stage. Dancing within that air was a subdued humming sound that emerged from the full lips of my little sister, Ariana. The blissful tune bounced on every lamppost and rolled down the forlorn streets outside. The little girl sat in the opposite corner of the building. She entertained herself greatly by rubbing the 3 crayons she had to make a drawing that looked as if it came from another planet. She hummed the song happily, as if she didn't notice the ugliness and musty air around her. The blemished ruffles on her flowery skirt covered her battered and emaciated legs, which were now crossed beneath her peacefully. Her dazzling blue eyes and golden hair seemed to give off light of their own in the dim room. I continued looking at the remainder of dirty glass in the window, the grimy, unwashed glass that separated me from the bitter and depressing town outside, the town that was my home. The sun began to fall under the mountains, which was now just a dim ball of light in the sunset-filled sky. The substantial berry-colored clouds encrusted one another in the fading sky, as the spindly shadows of night gripped the town and covered it in darkness. Now the only light in the sky was given off by the stars, carefully sprinkled, accompanied by the creamy moon. I brushed my thick black hair out of my eyes and looked at the dim reflection of myself in the broken glass. Draped around me was a shapeless and filthy dark blue sweatshirt. The sagging hood was pulled over my head and drooped over the top of my 14-year-old constricted face. My skeletal hands wandered over the rips in my jeans and into the pockets of my sweatshirt. I tenderly stroked the blue fuzz on the inside of the pockets. My fingers ran over a number of ragged holes in the process, which I suspected were made by the rats we shared our homes with. We have to go. Now, I instructed firmly as I began walking into the direction of Ariana. Insignificant chips of glass crunched beneath my boots, but that did not bother me. The 6-year-old girl glanced up immediately after the heavy words settled in the room. She coiled her diminutive fingers around her drawings and crayons and began to stand up gradually. My eyes were glued to the papers as she held them at her side. "What are these pictures of?" I demanded ruthlessly. The little girl gave a faint hint of a smile as she held them out in front of her. I reached out my extensive fingers and quickly snatched them away from her. "What is this place?" I hissed, my voice raspy and forced, as if I hadn't drunken water in days. Door. The door looked as if it had once been painted a lovely brown color, but was now peeling, leaving a splintery, crooked piece of wood hanging in the doorway. I could hear the crumpling of paper, but I continued to walk weakly over to the broken glass. Then the tiniest sound was heard, like a whisper, as the 2 drawings glided down to meet the floor. "I am sorry, Draylin," whispered Ariana sadly. I could see the little girl out of the corner of my eye, looking down sorrowfully at the drawings lying on the unclean floor. My feet slowed to a stop in front of the massive door. I took a deep breath of the musty air, but I did not utter a word. The old building moaned, the floor creaked, as well as the ceiling above our heads, as if it could fall down on top of us at any moment. My eyes gazed down at the floor for a moment, then with one boot I brushed the fractions of the window on each side of the door. My long skeletal fingers were pulled pockets weakly, almost as if they were puppets being lifted by string. For a moment, my hands were only perched on the doorknob as I positioned myself to open the door. I coiled my fingers on the rusty handle and began to pull. My feet slid apart unconsciously as I realized how hard the door was to open. I pulled with all my might, yanking my head back, then whipping it forward, making my black hair thrash wildly around my face. Then a rasping sound was filled the stale air as the door began to open. The faint moonlight flooded into the room, eliminating all shadows from sight as we made our way outside. Enormous trees stood guard over us as we began walking down the sidewalk. The last blazing leaves of autumn hugged the tough branches of the trees as strong wind sent them sailing through the night-filled sky. The crunching of glass was soon replaced with the crackling of dry leaves under my leather boots. Ariana strolled happily beside me, her blue eyes wide and sparkling as she looked around in wonder. Did she not understand why we all hated this place so much?